Chapter 2. And there went a man out of the house of Levi, and took a wife of the daughter of Levi. And the woman conceived, and bore a son. And when she saw him, that he was a goodly child, she hid him 3 months. And when she could not longer hide him, she took for him an ark of bulrushes, and daubed it with slime and with pitch. And she put the child therein, and laid it in the flags by the river's brink. And his sister stood afar off, to know what would be done to him. And the daughter of Pharaoh came down to bathe in the river, and her maidens walked along by the river's side. And she saw the ark among the flags, and sent her handmaid to fetch it. And she opened it, and saw it, even the child, and behold, a boy that wept. And she had compassion on him, and said, This is one of the Hebrews' children. And then said his sister to Pharaoh's daughter, Shall I go and call you a nurse of the Hebrew women, that she may nurse the child for you? And Pharaoh's daughter said to her, Go. And the maiden went, and called the child's mother. And Pharaoh's daughter said unto her, Take this child away, and nurse it for me, and I will give you your wages. And the woman took the child, and nursed it. And the child grew, and she brought him unto Pharaoh's daughter, and he became her son. And he called his name Moses, and said, Because I drew him out of the water. And it came to pass in those days, when Moses was grown up, that he went out unto his brethren, and looked on their burdens, and he saw an Egyptian smiting a Hebrew, one of his brethren. And he looked this way and that way, and when he saw that there was no man, he smote the Egyptian, and hid him in the sand. And he went out the second day, and behold, 2 men of Hebrews were striving together, and he said to him that did the wrong, Wherefore smitest you your fellow? And he said, Who made you a ruler and a judge over us? Thinkest you to kill me, as you didst kill the Egyptian? And Moses feared, and said, Surely this thing is known. Now when Pharaoh heard this thing, he sought to slay Moses. But Moses fled from the face of Pharaoh, and dwelt in the land of Midian. And he sat down by a well. Now the priest of Midian had 7 daughters, and they came and drew water, and filled the troughs to water their father's flock. And the shepherds came and drove them away. But Moses stood up and helped them, and watered their flock. And when they came to Reuel, their father, he said, How is it that you are come so soon today? And they said, An Egyptian delivered us out of the hand of the shepherds. And moreover he drew water for us, and watered the flock. And he said unto his daughters, And where is he? Why is it that you have left the man? Call him, that he may eat bread. And Moses was content to dwell with the man, and he gave Moses Zipporah, his daughter. And she bore a son, and called his name Gershom. For he said, I have been a stranger in a strange land. And it came to pass in the course of those many days that the king of Egypt died. And the children of Israel sighed by reason of the bondage, and they cried. And the cry came up unto God by reason of the bondage. And God heard their groaning, and God remembered his covenant with Abraham, with Isaac, and with Jacob. And God saw the children of Israel, and God took cognizance of them. All right, let's go back up to the first verse. We continuing from yesterday. We had the children of Israel now was in the land of Egypt, and the Pharaoh was no longer favorable towards the Israelites, the Hebrews, as they're being referred to. A Hebrew is somebody from beyond, and he has begun to put great tasks on them. He has tried to kill their male children, telling the midwives, those that help support or aid in the birthing of these that come forth from those that are beyond, to those that are born of masculine. We would find out the masculine is not the bad, but it's like the strength, because there's weakness. It's like the rigidness, because it bends. It's the other half of that which is feminine, and the feminine we can relate to that which is more beautiful, more pleasant. Now, the Pharaoh didn't succeed having the midwives destroy the masculines. They was coming forth anyway, so the Pharaoh's going to create a law that all the masculines be destroyed, period. That these thoughts of having your own authority may be kind of done away with all the pleasantness of the Pharaoh's law. Pharaoh's going to be the great house. We're going to pick it up here, continuing here in verse 1. And there went a man of the house of Levi, and took the wife, a daughter of Levi. So there goes a man. It's a certain man of this house of Levi. Levi was, remember, the one who joins. He was one of the sons of Yaakov. And he takes the wife. A wife is going to be a reflection of the understandings of Levi, we'll see here, because she was a daughter, one of the understandings of Levi. And we'll remember, Levi in the past was known for his quick judgments sometimes, and the way he acted. We'll find out the blessing. We just finished the blessing which Yaakov put upon him. But nonetheless, too, the woman conceived and bore a son, and when she saw him that he was a goodly child, she hid him 3 months. But the woman conceived. That was from man. She would bear a son. His son is going to be that masculine that comes forth even from Levi, and that understanding of Levi. And she saw that he was a goodly child. He was fair to look upon. He was you might say, a handsome young man. And she hid him for 3 months. 3, because it's going to complete the witness. We can complete anything. We can take and make it strong, or to twist it in is a cord of like 3 ropes or 3 strands. It makes the rope stronger. This moth is a cycle of the moon. That's a lesser light. 3. And when she could no longer hide him, she took for him an ark of bulrushes and daubed it with slime and with pitch, and she put the child therein and laid it in the flags by the river spring. She could no longer hide him, because the Pharaoh had issued that law that all the male children be destroyed, even among his own people. He was going to cut off a generation. And she would take for him an ark of bulrushes. An ark's like a little box. We've referred to it many times, and she's going to place him in it. It's going to carry. We're going to use it to carry. It's made of these bulrushes. Bulrushes are, it's a reed. The word gives lieu to absorbent. It's absorbent. It absorbs. And she daubs it with the slime and the pitch, and it absorbs that slime. It absorbs that pitch, and what it does is it waterproofs it. It prevents that water from getting in. And she puts the child therein, and she lays it among the flags of the river's brink. So around the river, she lays the little ark that she had put by these flags. The flags are the bulrushes. It's the reeds that grow by the river. Even these flags kind of represent a standard in a sense. We'll use it in this way. 4, and his sister stood afar off to know what would be done to him. So his sister now, that's the one that has a similar understanding, come from the same father, and the same mother, and the sister is that one who shares the understanding, and to see what would be done to him, to see what was going to happen. 5, and the daughter of Pharaoh came down to bathe in the river, and her maidens walked along by the riverside, and she saw the ark among the flags, and sent her handmaids to fetch it. So now the daughter, that's that understanding come forth of Pharaoh. Pharaoh's the great house. She comes down to bathe, to wash herself in the river. The river are the waters that descend, with this understanding descending, and her maidens, those Her maidens are those pleasant the feminines who serve her, walked along by the riverside, and to walk along that's to stroll there, you might say, to go by the side or beside the understandings. And she saw the ark there among the flags. So there among the standards there was this ark, that which was carrying, we'll find out, and sent her handmaid there to fetch it. So she sends forth this one that does her work, this one does her pleasant work, to fetch that ark. 6, and she opened it and saw it, and even the child, behold, a boy that wept. And she had compassion on him and said, This is one of the Hebrew children. And she opens it and saw in it even this child, and this one who was come forth, this one who was brought forth, you might say. And behold, it was a boy that wept. A boy is a young child, a male, we'll find out, one of these that was supposed to be destroyed, and that wept. He was crying, and she had compassion on him and said, This is one of the Hebrews' children. And she recognizes it because of she knew the law as well as everybody. And she knew that it was one of the Hebrews' children, these ones of these that would be born from or come forth from these that come from beyond. 7. Then said his sister to Pharaoh's daughter, Shall I go and call you a nurse of the Hebrew woman, that she may nurse the child for you? Then said his sister to Pharaoh's daughter, we'll find she would come out from her hiding place, so to speak, where she was watching nearby to see what would become of Moses. And she says, Shall I go to call you a nurse of the Hebrew women? And she asked Pharaoh's daughter if she wants to go get her to get a nurse. A nurse is one who's going to provide nourishment, you might say, in the early stages of our life. To nurse from the breast would be to receive that bonding, understanding of bonding, and this a nurse of the Hebrew women. That's one of the women. A woman is something. A woman comes from the understanding of man, or that of man. It's what women mean. Woman means. Women is plural. Hebrew. These are those from beyond. One from them, that she may nurse the child for you, or to give this nourishment to the one that was there in the basket. 8. And Pharaoh's daughter said to her, Go. And the maiden went and called the child's mother. So Pharaoh's daughter, of course, that's the great house. This daughter would be one of his understandings that went forth. Go. And maiden, of course, it would be Moses' sister, and called the child's mother, because we'll find out she knew exactly who the child was. 9. Pharaoh's daughter said unto her, Take this child away and nurse it for me, and I will give you your wages. And the woman took the child and nursed it. So Pharaoh's daughter is going to hire Moses' own mother to nurse him. We'll find out from there. Moses would get his initial understandings, that which comes from the breast of his mother. This one would give birth to him, and the woman took the child, and she would nurse it. 10. And the child grew, and she brought him unto Pharaoh's daughter, and he became her son, and she called his name Moses, and said, Because I drew him out of the water. And the child would grow, and in time she would bring him to Pharaoh's daughter after this period when he would be weaned, and he became her son. So and she called his name Moses. We'll find out. Pharaoh's daughter calls his name Moses. That's because she drew him out of the water, because she's the one that saved him. what Moses means to be kind of saved, or to be kind of one who's been saved out of the water or drawn out. She called his name Moses, and we'll see when we get to the book of Asher that his father called him by another name, his mother called him by one name. Moses was a man who was known by many. 11. And it came to pass in those days, when Moses was grown up, that he went out unto his brethren, and looked on their burdens, and he saw an Egyptian smiting a Hebrew, one of his brethren. And it comes to pass that in those days, during those understandings, when Moses was grown up, he was becoming a man, this one who was drawn out. He went out unto his brethren, those of a similar understanding, and he looked upon their burdens. He seen their troubles, and he saw an Egyptian smiting a Hebrew. An Egyptian is one that comes from the graves, those of that place of graves. He was smiting a Hebrew, one from beyond. That was one of his brethren, those of a similar understanding. 12. And he looked this way and that way, and he saw there was no man. He smote the Egyptian, and hid him in the sand. And he looked this way and that way. There was no man, except for the one whom the Egyptian was smiting. And the Egyptian, one from the graves, Moses smote him, and he hit him there in the sand. And sand's always a reference to multitudes. 13. And he went out the second day, and behold, 2 men of the Hebrews were striving together. And he said to him that did the wrong, Wherefore smitest you your fellow? And he goes out the second day, and second because it's an understanding that we're going to have to repeat. And he says, Behold, 2 men of the Hebrews were striving together. 2, we witness these Hebrews where they do strive together. That's those from beyond. And he said to him that did the wrong, Wherefore smitest you your fellow? Why do you smite this one who's similar to you? 14. And he said, Who made you a ruler and a judge over us? Think you to kill me? And you kill the Egyptian, as you kill the Egyptian? And Moses feared and said, Surely this thing is known. And the one who he's speaking to says to him, Who made you the ruler, a judge over us? The thanking you to kill me as you did the Egyptian, because now the Hebrew that he had aided had told this thing, and Moses was known, and Moses had fear. He said, Surely this thing is known, that he had smote the Egyptian. 15. Now when Pharaoh heard this thing, he sought to slay Moses, but Moses fled from the face of Pharaoh, and dwelt in the land of Midian, and he sat down by a well. Now when Pharaoh heard this thing, it was known to Pharaoh, the news travels fast, to the great house, that he sought to slay Moses, this one who was drawn out. But Moses fled the face of Pharaoh. He fled from these things that the great house had made plain, that face from before, you might say, and dwelt in the land of Midian. Midian is a contention, quarrel, Madon, in one of the children of Abraham. He sat down by the well. The well's always going to be a place we can draw some understanding from. 16. Now the priest of Midian, the priest of Midian, had 7 daughters, and they came and drew water and filled the troughs to water their father's flock. Now the priest, that's those that stood before Midian, the priest of Midian, would be one of them would be those that stand before contention or stand before strife. They would have had 7 daughters. 7 is to finish it, complete it, kind of sums up that understandings. They came in those pleasant understandings that come forth, and they came and they drew the water to draw out that understanding. They would fill the troughs to water their father's flock, or these that would come forth from or be led by their father. He was the priest, 17, and the shepherds came down, and the shepherds came and drove them away. But Moses stood up and helped them and watered their flock. And the shepherds are those that graze, those that cause to graze, those that tend over, watch over their flocks. Obviously, not their father's flock. They came and they drove them away from those troughs, and they would water their flocks from there, of course, causing these understandings to wait. But Moses stood up and helped them and watered their flock. But this one who was drawn out, he would stand up, we'll find out, masculine, showing his strength, and help them. And he watered their flocks. We'll find to moisten, to give a little understanding to 18. And when they came to Reuel, their father, he said, "How is this that you are come so soon today?" And they came back to Reuel. Reuel is the friend of the mighty one. It would be their father. There's a friend, somebody that aids, helps of their father. That's the one they would come forth from. "How is it that you are come so soon today?" Because he was used to them being late, because these shepherds would often stall them at the well every day, in every understanding. 19, and they said, "An Egyptian delivered us out of the hand of the shepherds, and moreover he drew water for us and watered the flock." And they said, "An Egyptian, one from the grave, has delivered us out of the hand of the works of these shepherds, those that tend over, and moreover he drew water," he brought up the understanding for us, "and watered," or moistened the flock, and give them, that was those that was led. And he said unto his daughters, "And where is he? Why is it that you have left the man? Call him, that he may eat bread." And he says unto his daughters, that's those ones, pleasant understandings that come forth from him, "Where is he? Where is this one? Why is it that you have left the man?" Now, the one that had done this, call him, that he may eat bread. Call him, go fetch him, you might say, or call for him, that he may eat bread, or even nourish himself. We'll find out a little substance for the flesh. 21. And Moses was content to dwell with the man, and he gave Moses Zipporah, his daughter. And Moses was content to dwell with him. Content, he stayed there. He was happy to stay there with the man. We'll find out that he was a priest of Midian, and he gave Moses Zipporah, his daughter. Zippor is a bird. This would be a understanding would go forth from Jethro. We'll find out, not Reuel. Moses was content to dwell there. With Zipporah would be his wife. This is what it means, and this one was drawn out. Zipporah is that bird, the feminine version. We would see there the weakness in it, because it's like a bird that's come forth from the nest early and is hopping around. 22. And she bore a son, and he called his name Gershom, for he said, "I have been a stranger in a strange land." And she would bear a son, bring forth a masculine as well, and she would call his name Gershom. Gershom's like a refugee, somebody maybe that's been forced out of their own place, and somebody else has kind of taken it up. They're like that little bird that's been forced out of the nest, that's hopping around, a refugee. It's a stranger in a strange land. 23. And it came to pass in the course of those many days that the king of Egypt died, and the children of Israel sighed by reason of the bondage. And they cried, and the cry came up unto God by reason of the bondage. And it comes to course. It's a course of time. We'll find out, as long as the people can suffer, they often do. And those many days, even in many understandings, that this king, Abdar Modach of Egypt, the place of graves, He's going to die as well, give up the ghost, and now there will be a little changing. The children of Israel, they sigh of reason of their bondage. That's those that come forth from Israel, the ones that contend with the Mighty One, will find man as well. They cry out because of their bondage, because they're being restrained by every law known to man. They cry out, and it reaches up to God by reason of the bondage, this restraining. And God is the Elohim, the powers, the might, the strength of all creation. He is the presence of Hashem himself. 24. And God heard their groaning, and God remembered his covenant with Abraham, with Ishaq, and with Yaakov. And God hears their groaning. He sees their groaning. And God remembers his covenant, that promise he made with Abraham, the father of many nations, with Ishaq, the one who loves him, with Yaakov, that supplanter, the one who would take it up. It was made his responsibility, so to speak. 25. And God saw the children of Israel, and God took cognizance of them. And God saw the children, that's those that come forth from Israel, the one who contends with the Mighty One, and man as well. The Elohim, that's the powers, the strength, all it's known. And God takes cognizance of them, and that's what cognizance is, to know. He sees, he has knowledge of, he understands, he recognizes them and their struggle, you might say. And this is where we move forward. Exodus chapter 3. Turn and return.